Never about a girlfriend. It was never, he had issues, he had a lot of issues that he had to deal with, and he literally didn't show up. You're playing to 20,000 people, and there's a black hole on the stage, and you didn't come the next night or the next night or the next night. So it's been 11 years, and he never came back into a room with the band and said hi.
Jon Bon Jovi, the famous leader of the rock band Bon Jovi, has sold over 150 million records worldwide with many big hits. However, his long music career also included well-known feuds with other famous artists and people in the music business. Now at 62, Jon Bon Jovi has finally named 6 artists he disliked the most. These include musicians from the grunge movement and even people who get into the Rock Roll Hall of Fame. At number 6 on our list is Nirvana's legendary frontman Kurt Cobain, who had one of the craziest feuds with Bon Jovi in rock history. So here's what happened. A photographer told Nirvana's drummer, Dave Grohl, something that he couldn't believe. Fast forward to 1993, and Grohl finally spills the tea. Jon Bon Jovi, who was already a massive rock superstar, walked into a photo shoot. He turned to the photographer and said, "Make me look like Nirvana." It wasn't just a passing comment. Bon Jovi wanted the style, the messy hair, the thrift store vibe, the raw edge that the rising grunge bands had made famous. So when Dave told Kurt this story, Kurt absolutely lost it. He said, "That's pretty flattering," but then he said something much harsher. "It just proves he's a desperate, untalented piece of..."
Bon Jovi came in and said, he came in with a flannel shirt on, and he said, "Make me look like Nirvana." And he said, "Well,
that's pretty flattering."
If Bon Jovi wants to look like us, something's wrong.
Cobain's private notes also showed how much he hated the polished rock music of the 1980s. He even called one of his own early songs evil because it sounded like bands such as Bon Jovi. Dave Grohl backs him up completely. He's like, "If Bon Jovi wants to look like us, something is wrong." Jon Bon Jovi stayed quiet about Cobain's mean words. But years later, Jon Bon Jovi did speak up about a different issue involving Cobain. In 2009, there was a video game called Guitar Hero 5. The game featured a digital avatar of Kurt Cobain, and players could use it to perform Bon Jovi songs like "You Give Love a Bad Name." Bon Jovi didn't like this. He said, "I don't know that I would have wanted it either. To hear someone else's voice coming out of a cartoon version of me? I don't know. It sounds a little forced." Coming in at number 5 is Richie Sambora, who was the lead guitarist and co-writer for Bon Jovi for 30 years. He co-wrote many of the band's biggest hits, including classics like "Livin' on a Prayer" and "Wanted Dead or Alive." The drama started in 2013 when Richie made this shocking move. He left the band right in the middle of their Because We Can World Tour, just hours before a concert in Calgary. Now, before you judge, he said he was dealing with some heavy stuff. His father passed away, he was going through a divorce, struggling with substance abuse, and really wanted to focus on being a better father to his daughter. John said Richie wasn't fired, but he just stopped coming to work. The band had to find replacements quickly to keep going on tour. This made things tense between them. Richie said he left because the band felt stale, and the work environment became hard for him. He felt left out creatively and emotionally tired. Richie said he regrets how he left suddenly without a clear talk with the band or fans. He apologized for that in a 2024 documentary about the band. Jon Bon Jovi said there was no big fight or money problem. He understands Richie had personal troubles and needed to focus on his family. But Jon also said the band had to keep moving and performing. They have not spoken much since Richie left in 2013. Richie said in interviews that he felt erased because the band brought in a new guitarist online without talking to him. He described the band's situation as toxic and said it stopped feeling like home. Despite their differences, Richie and Jon did reunite briefly in 2018 when the band was inducted into the Rock Roll Hall of Fame. The tension really started when Richie abruptly left the band, citing personal issues as the reason. While both sides say they still have mutual respect, they haven't worked together since. At number 4 on our list is Sebastian Bach, the fiery lead singer of the band Skid Row. Over the years, he's become known for his public feuds with other musicians. Sebastian Bach's feud with Jon Bon Jovi is an interesting one, especially because it started due to money.
There, which is rarely, they make me go in the returning resident line.
Really?
So that's kind of neat.
Nice. Okay, now, the legend has it that Skid Row got its big opportunity from Bon Jovi.
That's true.
But Bon Jovi got all the money.
Well, that's true. Wah, wah, wah.
In the beginning, Jon Bon Jovi was like a big brother to Sebastian Bach. He helped Skid Row get their first record deal with a music company. Jon even let them play as the opening band on his big tour in 1988-1989. Jon's parents first met Sebastian at a wedding in 1986. They liked him so much that they put him in touch with Jon's friend Dave Sabo. This is how Skid Row was born. But problems started when Skid Row became very popular. Their first album in 1989 sold over 5 million copies. It had hit songs like 18 and Life and I Remember You, but there was a big problem with money. When Jon helped Skid Row get their record deal, he made them sign a special contract. This contract said that Jon would get half of all the money from their songs. His guitar player Richie Sambora would get the other half. This meant Sebastian and his band got no money from their own songs. Sebastian got so mad about this deal that he threatened to quit the band. Things got worse when Skid Row's merchandise started selling more than Bon Jovi's at concerts. Jon got jealous and angry. Then one day, Jon called Sebastian into his dressing room. According to Bach, Jon just stared at him for a moment before saying, "I think I'm gonna own you." During one of their last concerts together, Jon's crew played a mean trick on Sebastian. Right before he went on stage, they poured cold milk with ice all over him. Sebastian got angry and shouted at the audience about Bon Jovi. After the show, Sebastian saw about 60 people walking toward him. Jon Bon Jovi was leading the group. His father and brother were next to him. Behind them was Jon's whole crew. Jon tried to punch Sebastian, but he missed. Sebastian's crew fought back. There was lots of yelling, pushing, and fighting. Jon's father even said he would hurt Sebastian badly. Sebastian wrote about this fight in his book 18 and Life on Skid Row. He said it was a tough time. But years later, in 2006, Sebastian and Jon met again in a bar in London. They hugged and made peace. Sebastian said Jon helped his band a lot, and he will always be thankful. Sebastian Bach is known for speaking his mind. Sometimes this causes fights, but he also makes peace. He cares a lot about music and his fans. This fight shows how rock stars can have big feelings just like everyone else. Sometimes money and jealousy can ruin friendships, but it also shows that people can forgive each other and become friends again after many years. Taking the number 3 spot is Howard Stern. The feud between Bon Jovi and Howard Stern was a classic clash of the late 80s and early 90s. On one side, you had the massively popular rock band, and on the other, the infamous radio host known for his shocking and provocative style. The fight began because Jon Bon Jovi refused to come on Howard Stern's radio show. Early in Jon's career, Stern wanted to interview him and promote Bon Jovi's music, but Jon gave a weak excuse on air, saying his record company stopped him from coming. Howard didn't believe this and teased Jon. He called Jon Bon Phony, meaning he thought Jon was not honest. Howard admits Jon sounded sorry, but he wasn't letting him off that easy. He starts roasting Jon's apology, basically saying, "You want forgiveness? Come wash my car and babysit my kids." Then, Richie Sambora, Bon Jovi's guitarist, called the show to say sorry. But Howard was still upset and told Richie that Jon would soon leave the band to start a solo career. Meanwhile, Howard Stern made a parody song called "You Give Friendship a Bad Name," mocking Bon Jovi's hit song. He also led a crowd to chant "Bon Jovi sucks" at a 1989 concert. This made the feud very public. Then, a mutual friend comedian, Sam Kinison, stepped in to play peacemaker. He called Howard's show and arranged for Bon Jovi to come on the next day for a live interview to end the fight. Both Howard and his team were excited and prepared special segments for the show. However, Bon Jovi and Sam Kinison did not show up. It was later learned that Bon Jovi's keyboard player, David Bryan, had planned it as a prank. He was calling from Australia and knew they would not actually be there. This made Howard feel tricked and hurt. Though the feud was serious at the time, it did not last forever. Over the years, Howard Stern and Bon Jovi made up. Jon Bon Jovi became a frequent guest on Howard's show. In 2018, Bon Jovi asked Howard to induct the band into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a sign of respect and friendship. Howard Stern inducts Bon Jovi at the 2018 Rock Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
Now another sign of the zombie apocalypse, Jan Wenner finally let Bon Jovi into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah! What's wrong with him?
David Bryan said in an interview that despite the prank, the band had great respect for Howard. He called the feud a memorable moment from their early days. Coming in at number 2 is the notoriously confrontational frontman of Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose. Axl Rose and Jon Bon Jovi have had a long history of tension and rivalry. Their feud dates back to the mid-1980s when both bands were rising stars in the rock music scene. And while both bands were part of the same rock scene, their styles and personalities were worlds apart, making clashes almost inevitable. The tension started around 1986 or 1987, Guns N' Roses were beginning to make a name for themselves, opening for bands like Alice Cooper. One story tells that Axl Rose was insulted when someone said he looked like Jon Bon Jovi. Axl did not like this comparison and reportedly started a fight in a hotel lobby in Chicago. This moment showed how Axl wanted to set himself apart and not be linked to Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi's drummer later turned down an invitation to join Guns N' Roses because of the ongoing bad feelings between the two bands. This proved the feud had some serious weight behind it. Years later, the feud got public with interviews and media stories. In 2006, Jon Bon Jovi openly criticized Axl Rose in an interview. Jon expressed frustration that Axl Rose continued to get massive media attention even after going 13 years without releasing a new album. He felt the media was more interested in Axl's Bad Boy. He said, "That hasn't made a record in 13 years, but they write about the freak show aspect of him because he's a recluse." Everyone expected Axl Rose to respond with his signature fire and fury, but instead, in a move that shocked everyone, he simply ignored the comments and remained completely silent. Besides the fight over media attention, their music and images were very different. Bon Jovi had a cleaner, more pop rock style. Axl and Guns N' Roses were raw, heavier, and known for wild behavior on and off stage. These differences made it harder for the two singers to relate or get along. Bon Jovi has been called the good rocker because of his more family-friendly image. Axl Rose, with his unpredictable mood and rough style, was the bad boy of rock. This clash of images added fuel to their rivalry. Despite the long history of conflict, there are signs that the feud may have lessened with time. Musicians often change as they get older, and many old rivals find peace. There are stories of chance meetings and dinners where past enemies share good moments, but no official public reconciliation between Axl Rose and Jon Bon Jovi has been announced. The feud reminds us that famous musicians are people too, with emotions, pride, and conflicts, just like anyone else. And finally, at number 1 on our list, we have Paul Westerberg, the legendary frontman and songwriter for The Replacements, a band famous for its raw sound and brutally honest lyrics. The feud between Paul Westerberg and Jon Bon Jovi is a classic tale of two completely different bands. The story starts in the 1980s, a time when Bon Jovi was growing into a big name in rock music. Their album, Slippery When Wet, became a massive success, and the band gained worldwide fame with hit songs like Livin' on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name. Even with all that success, the millions of albums, the packed arenas, Bon Jovi couldn't catch a break from music critics. They kept saying the band was too commercial, too polished, not authentic enough. At the same time, the Replacements were gaining respect from a different crowd of fans and critics. Their music was raw, more emotional, and less polished. They didn't have the same commercial success, but were seen as influential and cool by many alternative rock fans. In February 1989, the Replacements appeared on the cover of Musician magazine with the headline, "The Last Best Band of the 80s," a title that didn't sit well with Jon Bon Jovi. Jon Bon Jovi was reportedly irritated by the praise the Replacements were receiving. He made a dismissive comment in an interview saying, "The last great band of the 80s. Yeah, right. I never heard of these guys, but I guess you're an artist if you're on the cover of Musician magazine." This basically showed that Jon didn't take the Replacements seriously at all. He saw them as nobodies because they weren't scoring massive hits like his band was. And that comment, it made this whole feud blow up publicly and proved there was some real bad blood between these two camps. Paul Westerberg heard what Jon said and he wasn't having it. He shot back with some seriously sharp words. According to a rock journalist, Westerberg said, "How many critical raves has he had? Sure, I might trade bank accounts with Bon Jovi, but I wouldn't want his pants." This meant that even though Westerberg might want the money and success Jon had, he didn't admire Jon's personality or style. Paul was proud of being an artist respected by critics, even without the huge commercial success of Bon Jovi. The feud highlights the difference between two parts of rock music during the 1980s. Bon Jovi's music was more pop rock and aimed at a broad audience. Their style and image were cleaner and more polished. On the other hand, the Replacements represented a grittier and more underground sound. They were known for emotional honesty, wild live shows, and rough edges. These differences were a big part of why the two bands didn't get along well. This feud was not only between Paul Westerberg and Jon Bon Jovi, it reflected a bigger gap between mainstream rock bands like Bon Jovi and alternative bands like the Replacements. The Replacements broke up in 1991, partly due to members' personal problems and challenges with commercial success. Paul Westerberg continued to make music with a more solo, indie approach. Bon Jovi continued to grow in popularity and success, moving even further into pop and mainstream rock. Though the feud between Paul Westerberg and Jon Bon Jovi was never a physical fight, their voices and words showed clear dislike and rivalry. Both made their opinions heard through interviews and the media. Over time, the feud cooled off, and the focus shifted from rivalry to music legacy. Paul Westerberg became known as a respected singer-songwriter, while Bon Jovi stayed one of rock's biggest commercial hits. Jon Bon Jovi once said he did not even remember the comments about the replacements when asked years later, showing the distance time created between the two. In the end, both artists left an undeniable mark on music history. Their rivalry became a symbol of a fundamental debate in rock and roll. So there you have it, the feuds that defined an era, all from the perspective of one of rock's biggest icons, Jon Bon Jovi. From the culture clash with Kurt Cobain, to the radio wars with Howard Stern, and the battle for rock's very soul against Paul Westerberg, these stories are so much more than just backstage drama. What do you think? Was Jon right to call these artists out? Or were they just on different sides of the same rock and roll coin? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think had the biggest feud with Bon Jovi? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another story from music history. We'll see you in the next video.